Welcome to Heartland Dual Sport. In today's video we're going to be answering a question from one of our comments that we've had on a previous video, and the question comes from Jeff at Colorado Dual Sport. He said that he had looked at this bike a few times on the showroom in his local hometown and was wondering how comfortable the new 2022 KLR adventure model would be on a long day trip. So we are pleased to announce that we just made a trip back to see my father back in Oklahoma. We rode this bike there, and it was a pretty good long road trip. Let's look at the mileage. It's a little over 658 miles there and back to go see my dad, and we did that in 2 days, 658 miles. So if you just divided that in half, say roughly 325 miles a day, and that's a pretty good road trip on any adventure bike. I know there would be times where you might want to do as many as 600 miles in a day, and I'm here to tell you it's still doable. The seat on this is extremely comfortable. You've got plenty of room. If you start getting a sore spot, you can move forward, you can move back. We did have the bike loaded down when we took this trip. We had it loaded down for a multi-day trip and possibly even some camping. We did not get to camp, however, and that was due to on the way there we weren't going to camp out. We were going to actually just ride up, see my dad. He needed to get with me for a few things and go over a few things. The actual comfort of this bike for a long road trip, in my mind, is just as good as the Africa Twin. It's way better than the DRZ 400. I do like the tank on it. It's got the extended range to where you're ready to get off and stretch way before you need gas. And that's one thing, like riding around with David, my buddy Tankerman over at, we've been making several trips and we're calling them D&D adventures. Again, another reason to subscribe so that you don't miss out on some of our adventures we're taking. And he's riding that Honda XR at around 90 miles. He's looking for a gas station. The last time that we rode, we got up around 95. He actually had to pull over and switch his bike over into reserve because that's just part of it. It's nice and refreshing knowing that this bike has such a long fuel range on it. So like I say, I think technically you could probably make it from here to Oklahoma City and only stop for fuel one time. However, even with like the Africa Twin, what I've found to be works best for me and my body, because I'm not 20 years old anymore, about every 100 miles I need to get off, stretch my legs, you know, stretch my back, stretch my arms, shake my hands out or whatever. The one thing I will say that goes along with the comfort on a long ride, in answer to Jeff's question, a more thorough answer is this bike purrs between 65 and 70 miles an hour. So if you are on those back highways and you're making long trips, this bike does great. Once you start getting over about 70 miles an hour, you can start feeling the vibration a lot more. But anything under 70 miles an hour, you're actually doing really good. I mean, right now we're doing 35, 40 miles an hour. I'm not necessarily noticing any vibration that would be anything that would cause any concern of mine. I know that's one thing that Tankerman and I have talked about with him, and he's looking for a new bike, is sometimes the vibration, it's bad on a guy if you got some slightly arthritic wrist or something like that, but I'm just not seeing it with this bike. Again, the one thing that I will point out, and I mentioned it before we took the long road trip, is I didn't have a throttle lock before I left, and I thought that maybe was something that I truly needed that would help aid in the comfort of the ride. And to be honest with you, my Africa Twin didn't have a cruise control or whatever, and I know a lot of people poked fun of me when I did the 5 things I hate about the Africa Twin video, and basically they were saying I was whining about the cruise control. Well, the thing of it is, the cruise control came standard on the Triumph Tiger, which was roughly at that time the same price. So all I basically did is I went through that video and I named off 5 things that the Triumph came with that the Africa Twin didn't. But in answer to the question, the KLR for whatever reason, and I can't explain it, I just wasn't having that hand fatigue from holding the throttle. And as many of you know, one of my trips that I took with the Africa Twin when we went to March Moto Madness out in East Tennessee is I was riding the bike back and I was getting sore. I wanted to let my hand off the throttle, shake it out, and I just didn't have that problem with the KLR. I don't know why. I'm not trying to say that this bike is better than the Africa Twin. What I'm trying to say is I didn't notice that maybe the spring on this throttle is less. I just can't explain it, but maybe it's the hand position. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I can just tell you, overall comfort, this bike actually did way better than my Africa Twin did on some of the long rides that I did. Now, to be totally honest and totally fair, I do have to say this. By the end of the second day, coming in, I was ready to get off the bike. Now, the same is true when I rode the Africa Twin home from Tennessee that day. At the end of that day, and I want to say it was 850, 900 miles or whatever, I rode straight through. Again, that was another day where I got caught up in rain through half the trip. And I had on all my climb gear, so I was dressed appropriately for it. But I was ready to get off the bike. And I guess what I'm trying to say more than anything, if you're not in good bike shape, I don't care what bike you're on, you're going to be sore and ready to get off the bike if you're doing a 600-mile day. And to go a step further, I've looked into the Seat Concepts seat. I think it would be a comfortable seat. I think it would be one that would potentially be worth looking into. I know that a lot of the guys who have done a lot of the videos on them, that Seat Concepts actually made them a seat and gave it to them for their video reviews or whatever. I know that Happy Trails was doing their 2022 KLR build, and they put a Happy Trails seat on theirs, and it actually came from Seat Concepts. So I know there's some guys that are getting them free. I don't have the money in the budget. I'd love to do a review for them, but I just don't know that I have the money in the budget. And one thing that I would do, if they were kind enough to even send me the foam, I would make my own seat cover out of leather, because I've got some plans for this bike. I'm not going to give them away in this video, but we are going to be doing some fun stuff with, as you know, we've got a leather shop, so I've already started fabbing out a few things that I plan on using on this bike. So anyways, Jeff, I hope this video helps answer that question. I tried to cover most of the topics that would help involved with the comfort. The windscreen, in my mind, that comes factory on this bike, it's just fine for a long road trip. This windscreen's so much better, and it gives you a lot more protection than the actual windscreen from the previous generation KLRs. And while we're on that cockpit, I want to go ahead and cover the hand guards. These are more like what you'd call wind or rain guards. And like I mentioned, during this long road trip to Oklahoma and back, I got caught up in the rain about halfway through. My hands stayed dried for the most part, and that was driving through a lot of rain. Now, of course, they're going to get wet. You're in the rain. But I will say that my hands were the last thing to get truly wet. The rest of my body, whether you want to say the chest, legs, feet, my whole body was wet before my hands were. So hats off to Kawasaki for putting these wind guards on. They're never going to be brush guards. They're just strictly wind guards. So with that said, I think it's something worth noting that they are really pretty cool for what they are. You don't see that every day. Sheriff driving on a flat tire. Poor guy may not have a spare. That's not good. But anyhow, if you guys like our video, give us a big thumbs up. We appreciate your likes, comments, and subscribes. If there was something in this video you feel that I didn't clarify or need to clarify more as far as the overall comfort of this bike, please post it in the comments below. I'll try to answer it. Anytime that I'm doing a video, I try to cover as many of the topics as I can, or at least the key points of whatever that video is. And I'm like anybody else. I make mistakes, guys. So appreciate your patience with us as we're going through this transition between working part-time and full-time. I've just gone back to working part-time again. I took a position at the local Tractor Supply, and I started out part-time. They needed another supervisor because they was going through a remodel, and I volunteered to go into a temporary position as a supervisor, and I learned a lot. It was a great time that I was there as the manager. I enjoyed all the people that I worked with and worked for me as well. But I just don't want to work full-time anymore. I've already retired from one job, and I went there as something to do, kind of a part-time deal. But again, guys, I appreciate your likes, comments, and subscribes. We're going to run in here and grab a couple of tacos for lunch real quick, and then we're going to be doing the other video, which is the 1,200 mile review. So again, we appreciate your likes, comments, and subscribes. Thank you, everybody, for all your support, and just know that we appreciate you. And if you guys have never been to the Jalapeno Tree, you're missing out. It's a great place to eat. I'm telling you, it's a great place to eat. Turn the GPS off, it'll power off. Thanks again, everybody. Have a blessed day. But like I say, the main purpose of this video is just to answer some of the comments that's been left by some of our viewers and or Facebook friends. And if you guys haven't joined our Facebook group, it's Gen 3 Tribe. We'll be doing a lot of different posts over there, and we want to welcome everybody in the KLR community, not just the Gen 3 owners, but it is a Gen 3 Tribe owners group, and it's been started already. We have less than 10 or 15 people in the group, but I think it's going to be a fun overall deal. Again, guys, if there's a question that you have about this bike, something that you are looking forward to maybe getting some answers to it, let us know. I don't know the order of the video and which way they'll end up getting posted, but we are going to be doing the 1,200 mile review, and it's actually, you can call it 1,200 or 1,400, it doesn't really matter. We're setting a little over 1,400 miles after the trip back to see Dad. We're right at 1,445 miles at the time of this recording. So we've got that 1,400 mile review coming. Again, I don't know if it'll be before this video or after, but either way, I'd love to talk you into subscribing. If you like our video, give us a big thumbs up. I hope this has helped answer some of the questions.